Prospect camp started today, and Greg Morgan finally spills the beans on this big free agent the Arizona Coyotes are pursuing. All that and more on Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I am your host, Robyn Leonio, alongside Matthew Jacobson. We want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube and the Sirius XM radio app. We got a great show for you on today because at the time of this recording today, and yesterday when everyone's listening, the Coyotes started a prospect development camp, and Matt, you and I were there among a lot of other people. Some people who listen to the show were also there. I know that. It's a great time to finally see some, Coyotes prospects, to see some hockey live, even if it's just drills.
Yeah, look, I had a similar feeling actually when I went to go watch my first ASU women's game last year, where it was like, oh, there's some hockey. We get to just watch some. It feels earlier than it should be, but we get to watch some hockey, and that I was just there for that. And
it's scorching hot. It's 115 degrees outside, and we get to go inside and watch hockey.
It's amazing.
I'm sorry. What?
It's great. Anyway, what are some of the takeaways you had? Because the biggest takeaway I had was Julian Lutz has an NHL shot. And boy, if they don't have that kid signed yet, they need to, because he needs to be a Roadrunner stat.
Oh, he looks great. He looks fantastic. I think for me, I will say this: day one, it's hard for me to gather as much, and that's why it's a whole week long. Day two, we'll probably figure things out more. We'll probably get to that in a little bit, but we got a chance to see a decent amount of the practicing skating out there. Some of these players, their skating is great. They just I feel like a lot of these players just really need to work on puck handling and just a little bit of skill work. And I say that as someone who's barely plays hockey, but it's something that you're just like, okay, this is something that they need to work on. This is something that they need to work on. And that's what the point of this week is, right? It's prospect development camp.
Yeah, not prospects are ready to go right now camp. Although, Lutzy looked really good. I think Mav looked pretty good defensively. He had a couple shots that were pretty solid, a couple shots that weren't the greatest, but it's also day one of prospect camp. There's only really a couple of guys I wasn't really impressed with, and those were guys that were just walk-ons anyway. So of the actual Coyotes prospects, I liked a lot of what I saw, even though it took a little while. But after I kind of got a little more comfortable with some people talking to me about some hockey, I completely missed like an hour and a half of hockey just chatting.
It's what happens when you're in hockey media, especially because again, people will recognize you there, or you'll recognize other people. You just want to talk puck with people, because it just feels good when you talk puck.
Yeah, and like a little PSA, if you see me in public, I'm a lot more afraid of you than you are of me. I am so socially awkward, and I realized at some point I was hovering around Robyn too much, so I walked away and stuffed my face with pretzels and Dippin' Dots. But it just come say hi, distract me, I'll open up a lot. Now I won't be like a spider on the wall trying to act like I'm not there.
And we've had a few that did come up and say hello to us, and they like, look, we're not, we're nice people. We're gonna chat you up as well.
My reaction to all of those were like, are you sure you're talking to the right guy? Are you sure you watch this show? You recognize? I got one of those faces. It might be a recognizable face, but I ain't recognizable.
I know exactly what you mean, and I mean, that's part of us humbling ourselves, right? That's trying to just not accepting that, hey, we're a show that people listen to. But anyways, it was really interesting to see the difference between Group 1 and Group 2 because Group 1 was like, that was a little bit more the younger crowd. Group 2 is like, hey, people have been here before. And I think, it's still a mix of both, but like you look at Group 2, for example, on Monday. It's funny because someone pointed it out. Like, if you look at Connor Geeky alone, he's a big dude. But if you had him next to all the other 6 whatever prospects, like, the 6 foot whatever prospects, it's like, oh, he looks like an average dude next to these guys because everyone else is, because as we talked about, the Bill Armstrong guys that have been getting drafted, they're coming into the system, he's bringing in big guys, and it's just like, yeah, this seems like. Also, if you look at the picture that I took of Connor Geeky from the corner, just so you know, the rink that we were at, in the, I think it was the Coyotes rink at Ice Den Scottsdale, the walkway outside of the ice is about an extra foot off the ground. So it made probably the positioning look a little bit taller. But who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Geeky. A lot of the biggest complaints about him were his skating. I didn't think his skating was all that bad, but they're literally, as soon as I brought them out, they were doing skating drills. So it was definitely interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice to see him out there, especially since last year he missed pretty much, practically the 90% of prospect development camp. It's cool to see Maverick Lamoureux too, because he wasn't there last year either. So like some players that just weren't there last year, didn't get a chance to see last year, you were able to see now. Although for some reason, Goalie was hard to find if he was there even on the ice in day one. We know he was there, but just couldn't find him.
I feel like Logan Cooley is going to make himself very scarce until he plays in the actual NHL. But I don't know. My biggest takeaway was the fact that that Lipkin kid is really good.
Ooh, yeah, Lipkin is really good.
The fact that he can handle the puck the way he does in tight spaces too. Those drills they were doing, it was basically a 2-on-2. That kid, I'm a little mad that he went back to college. You should have just signed the contract because why not? You're right there, and dude knows how to handle the puck. Please come back.
No, I also somewhat get it, based off how things currently are, just kind of, just wanting to ride, the high of having won a national championship.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, I want so many of these kids playing in Tucson because I feel genuinely, I felt not this exact feeling for a while, but like, hey, as soon as you can, throw them in Tucson because you're playing against men and also they can play higher roles. But if you put a lot of these prospects in Tucson, that's immediately a Calder contender because there's so much young talent that I was like, dude, go to Tucson. I can watch you more. I can justify driving down. I come on, please sign with or go to the Roadrunners, sign a contract.
I would love an excuse to go down to Tucson and to watch the Roadrunners any day. For me, it's like going back to my old barn. I covered that team for 7 years. I lost count at this point. It's been a long time. So if we can, I'm with you. If we can get more of these guys making their way to Tucson, I would absolutely love that. And I think that's what a lot of this week is for. We want to be able to see, where a lot of these prospects are in the development. It's like, hey, let's see if we can get you a contract and see if we can get you to make your way to pros or to the AHL. And I know a lot of these CHL guys, they can't. Those are the younger CHL guys. They can't play in the AHL until 20,
Yeah, I think
20.
it's 20 for those guys, and everyone else it's 18, 19, or whatever it is. Like as soon as they're
Yeah, it's just like
they're
some kind of
drafted.
collective bargaining agreement between the NHL and the CHL, which is fine. I just feel like there should be special exceptions because there are some players who I think would be better served playing in a professional team rather than a junior team. But that's my opinion. I could be wrong.
It's a correct opinion because you could. Dylan Guenther, just we have to get to break, but Dylan Guenther, ask anyone that watched him play when he was in Seattle, a man among boys. Like at some point, you can only do so much at that level. Where I think holding off to their 20 is too much. I think if you want to have that first year, that 18-year-old year, sure, but some of these 19-year-old kids really should be in the AHL.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to continue our conversation, talk about the first day of prospect development camp, and we're going to take a look at one of the free agents that the Arizona Coyotes are pursuing, whether or not, and see maybe how close they might be from that happening. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our sponsors on the show.
FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Bet just $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on everything from the money line to the over-under you think is going to get the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
All right, Matt. So another thought that I want to bring up from prospect development camp that I feel like I've been missing. I missed over in that first 10 minutes, but I want to bring it up now. I was pretty impressed with goaltender Rabble.
Yeah. I know there was one moment I was watching that drill where they had the goaltenders on either end and they were shooting pucks at him, and I looked over at you, and I'm not a goaltending expert. I was just, I've never really had to pay attention too much to a lot of it. But I'm like, hey, does it seem like he's a little slow getting down to the butterfly? And I think you were saying that it was just essentially a warm-up exercise. He was solid throughout his entire run.
Mm-hmm.
He's making some pretty good saves, good positioning. His glove was in the right area. A couple times it looked a little low, but I mean, I guess I'm not all that knowledgeable because he was still making the saves right there glove side.
Yeah, you can definitely see what he needs to work on. But again, goalies take even longer to develop. I said earlier, those who listen every day know that I mentioned, hey, defensemen take a long time to develop. Goaltenders take even longer to develop. Mm-hmm. So I didn't expect much from the goaltenders going in. Maybe kind of the exception of Anson Thornton because he had this is his third prospect development camp. You'd expect some level of growth at this point. But with Rabble, as what you mentioned, his positioning was fine. Was fine. I feel like the only things they kind of had to focus on is more of just kind of those reactions and, like you said, getting down and knowing where to be at close quarters. But otherwise, I think he's looked pretty solid.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Rasmus Kronen briefly. I cannot put into any words anything specific in terms of positioning, movement. It's just he looked sound. He looked like he was playing solidly, and that might be a kid. He's played for Tucson before. Then he was on loan, I think, in one of the Euro leagues. That might be a kid that ends up coming up and trying to make a push for a backup spot in Tucson, or if there's an injury and you need to call up a goaltender, he's the guy that fills down in Tucson. I'm interested in his development because I think he's coming along pretty decently. Every time I see him, he looks structurally sound. It's like he's playing solidly, and I feel like I have forgotten Kronen whenever I'm talking about Coyotes goaltending prospects. So I kind of want to take a minute to at least highlight him because I found myself just watching him and Rabble, the ones I was trying to focus on a lot from the first group, because if you weren't watching Lutzy just absolutely demolish the puck in the high corners or watching Lamoureux and his defense, you're watching the goaltenders on that first unit.
Absolutely. And I'll say one last player who I thought did well too, as Matika. I felt like Matika actually he looked comfortable out there. 100% he looked comfortable out there. And again, he's still young. I feel like there's other things, but I think the most important thing you can ask for in a prospect is looking comfortable.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. Now that you mention it, because I was keeping an eye on him. The name was familiar. I know he was taken, I think, 2 years ago, and he's got some size to him. The thing I didn't like was his shot, and I couldn't tell if it was just he was getting some bad shots off, it was some bad passes, but it seemed like every single time I focused on him, and I wasn't watching him like a hawk. I was just watching a bunch of different prospects. But every time I saw him with the puck, his shot wasn't very good. But other than that, in terms of visibly on ice being comfortable, he skated well. He looked good in those regards. Just
great skating, great positioning, great great at a lot of things. And I think there's a couple of things that I'll probably the way you could probably say it is, as I've mentioned before many times, when it came to the development of Connor Garland years back, when I first saw him in Tucson, I was like, he looks great with the puck. He's got great positioning. He's got a very offensive mind. I feel like he just needs to be better away from the puck. I feel like Matika is kind of the opposite, and that's like he's got the great positional awareness. He's got phenomenal skating. It just when it comes to making necessary moves with the puck in hand, I feel like there's a little bit to be desired, but I feel like he's going in the right direction on that.
Yeah, I don't really know. Mine is just hopefully things just keep developing on, because I don't want to pile on the kid or say he sucked or anything. It's just I was a little taken aback by just how poor I thought the shot and the shot form was, and he wasn't getting the puck on the right part of his stick. You could tell he was failing on some of the shots.
And let's remember, this is just day one.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's getting their feet wet. You're reporting back.
Day two for most of the guys listening to this. This gets released early in the morning, so most of you guys could be listening to this in your commute. There's another camp, day 2, open to the public, starting at around 9 a.m. If you listen to this before the start of the 9 a.m. and you don't have to be at work before then, come on down and watch for another day. It's the last day open to the public up until the black and white game on Friday, which is open to the public asterisk, because technically it's only open to season ticket holders. So it will be the last chance to see them before it's closed off.
Yeah. So that should do it for day one of prospect talk. Then let's talk about Dumba. Let's talk about Craig Morgan was hyping up this big fish the Coyotes are going after, and I was just waiting for him to give the name out, and we finally get it. We can finally discuss it. It's Matt Dumba. I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I knew who it was. I'm not going to say why, but I did know who it was. They are so quote unquote stacked, and not stacked in the context of this defense is so good, but in the context of they have so many bodies on defense. They kind of, to an extent, replicated the same problem they had last year, where they have so many vet guys. Where are you going to fill, or we're going to get an extra roster space available for this or that younger player? You have that log jammed on the right side. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dumba's a right shot defenseman. I don't really think it makes sense at this point. I'm not against it. If he shows up here, great. But I don't know how much sense it makes at this point, but I do like how, and Craig Morgan described it as the Coyotes are pursuing him. I like the fact that they want to get better and they want to keep looking at a lot of these guys. And hell, maybe look at Jason Demers they were talking about. I was listening to that show on the way home. Maybe look at Jason Demers to play in Tucson, so you can have a veteran guy for the AHL kids.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because when I first found out about it, about the potential for Dumba, I was actually on the not the I wouldn't say the opposite side. I wasn't like ecstatic, excited, but I was like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I think that'd be a decent move. And in the sense, because you mentioned it, right shot defenseman. I feel like again, those are a highly desired position. You want to see if you can get a right shot defenseman. I'm still, taking a look at the overall Coyotes defensive defensive core. I feel like there are some that just aren't ready to make the jump to the NHL yet. So I just don't want to push them up too much. I feel like Dumba can kind of help, have a solidified roster spot. So I want to make sure that the defense isn't just all pure holes. I feel like he can do well at the defense. Plus, I also feel like looking at it, at around his age, he's 28. I feel like he's got a decent amount of experience in that. Also help the younger guys too. And again, there are even older people out there, but I feel like he can help. He can help in that regard too. So, I like the potential move. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying that it's the best move the Coyotes will make. It's definitely not, but I like it.
I like the player. I like the mindset. I like how they want to keep improving. But I am a little more of a traditionalist in the context of like basketball. I want my number one point guard, number two shooting guard, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of same thing with hockey, where even though it kind of makes sense offensively to kind of switch them around, but you can just do a quick play where the left and right defenseman just cross the ice and you can set up one-timers that way. But your right defenseman should be a righty, left defenseman should be a lefty in most contexts. Look at the right side of the defense right now. Josh Brown, Troy Stetcher, Victor Soderstrom is in the mix. He's in there. I'm missing at least one other player. I know Michael Kesselring, he's on that list somewhere. And I feel like I'm missing one more right shot, but they have at least 4 or 5 right shot guys now. Then you have JJ, you have Valimaki, Kolyachonok, you got a couple guys on the left side. It's already kind of log jammed on the right, where I think you really do create the problem of having too much blocking the young kids if you bring in Dumba right now. Where if a young kid, let's say Kesselring just blows you away this training camp, phenomenal, boom, there you go, he's earned a spot somewhere in let's say third pairing, second pairing, whatever. Jonathan Dursey, there we go. Took me a second. Sean Dursey is also on the right side. So let's say, he blows you away and he's somewhere, he's locked in a spot. Well, Dursey's probably going to slot in at 1. Stetcher's probably your third pair because Stetcher's really good defensively. Where do you think Kesselring should be on the second? No, probably not. So then you put Stetcher on the second. I mean, if you put Stetcher on the left-hand side and have him on your third pair anyway, it already kind of creates the same problem they had last year. And I didn't even mention Josh Brown. So at this point, currently, I don't think it makes sense. I'm not going to throw a fit if it does happen.
According to the Coyotes roster, there are 3 right shots and 2 left shots currently, like on there, just on NHL.com.
I was going to say on Cat Friendly, where it shows the NHL level contracts.
Yeah, on NHL.com lists Brown, Dursey, and Stetcher as right shots. Mosier and Valimaki are left shots.
Mm-hmm. And then Kesselring, Soderstrom, all right shot guys. So realistically, Brown could be your 7th defenseman, but I feel like right now there are enough defensemen to where if you add any more, you have the same problem as last year. Not going to throw a fit if Dumba gets signed. It would still be a good player, probably a good 1 or 2 year contract. I'm not saying this for the sake of, screw Dumba. I feel like right now, if you add that one extra piece, it does throw a bit of a wrench into it because, Dursey, Stetcher, Brown. You also have Soderstrom and Kesselring fighting for a roster spot. Brown can be easily knocked down, but if you throw in Dumba, you only have that 6th spot, which would be the left side, which means you'd have to put Stetcher on the left because he can play there, and then you have Kesselring or or whoever fighting for that third pair spot, it just kind of gets a little messy, in my opinion.
I'm just personally taking a look at, with the number of defensemen, I feel like taking a look at it, there is, I feel like Kesselring, I just don't see him, unless again he surprises completely. I just don't see him making his way, making a full-time roster spot. I'm not completely sold on Kyle yet. He's fine, but I'm not sold on him. So personally, I feel like I guess it's my viewpoint is like if you can get someone who's a certified roster, that's roster defenseman, especially at right shot. It's like okay, that's we'll take it. Especially let's say right now I'm looking at cap friendly. Yeah, listing six defensemen. It's always good to have like a seventh in there. Remember, you always want a seventh in there to kind of rotate. And I'm not saying Dumba will end up being a seventh if he gets signed. Again, he will definitely be even further up there. But it's nice to have, a decent seven that you can trust on that you can rotate in and out.
Then I also completely forgot, which they have a better full roster so far of forwards now than they did last year. But Tournier loves the 11-7, and I despise it. I hate it. It's the one thing I don't like about Andre Tournier, and I will complain every single time. So if they do sign Dumba, that would be the reason they'd be doing it, is to ensure they can run the 11-7 all the time.
That I'm not for. I'm not for the 11-7. I think I'm not a fan of it at all. But I do like having 7 defensemen available for extras. One's going to be a scratch every now and then.
You always need that 7th defenseman, but like I was breaking down, you have Valimaki and JJ as your top 2 left shot defensemen. You're not negotiating that. On the right side, you have Dursey, you have Josh Brown, you have Troy Stetcher. So that if you were to bring in Dumba, you move Stetcher over, and there you go. And then you have your 7th defenseman spot would be for one of the kids, or anyone else is fighting for a roster spot, or anyone else is a borderline. You have like 4 defensemen that are fighting for that one spot, and Josh Brown is fine. I have no problems with Josh Brown, but Josh Brown probably works best as your 7th defenseman. So then who is that defenseman that's going to slot in as the 6th? And I kind of feel like it'll be Kesselring, because I liked how he played last year. But you have him, Soderstrom, Kolyachonok. You have a couple of players that could fill that role. You throw in Dumba, it creates that logjam. And I hate the 11-7, and that logjam just enables it, because then you're going to be carrying like 8 defensemen.
It's an interesting thought, and I get it. I guess we'll just it's just like differing opinions, which is fine. I feel like we both see the validness of both sides, and I understand.
Nah, screw you, Robin. I quit the show. I can't deal with you if you don't agree with everything I say. That's it. Done.
I love that. But it's but it'll be interesting if it happens. We'll have to see. And again, at the time of this recording, at the time many of you guys are listening, it probably hasn't happened yet. So
watch it happen like 10 minutes after we're done recording. Like, watch us log off this. Craig Morgan breaking Matt Dumba 2-year.
It's too late for
$8
that.
million
It's too
contract.
late for that, Matt. If it does though, if it does it, like, let's say I'm on my way to get ready to sleep so I can get ready for the 9 a.m. for that 9 a.m. camp. Mm-hmm. I blame you.
Hey, I'm not going to be going to bed till like 10:30 anyway. I got some, or 11:30, 12 o'clock. I got some Rattler stuff to do, so there's no sleep for us tonight.
I mean, that's the life of a sports reporter, right? That's just how it goes.
Oh, you think I'm actually a reporter? So young, so innocent. I'm just a big dumb idiot head that makes YouTube videos.
Okay, sure. Any final thoughts before we close things off?
Artem Duda.
That's it.
That's
That's it.
He was
I
there.
love it. Well, that's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, and subscribe if you have yet to already. We are available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube and to the SiriusXM radio app. Now, we can interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes. On Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leano. Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have, we might answer right back, or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys staying safe out there. Hope you guys staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.